Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijanat Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijanat Vallabha Girivardhari Yasudanandana Brajajanarandana Yasudanandana Brajajanarandana Munate Ravanachari Yamunate Ravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasudanandana Brajajanarandana Yasudanandana Brajajanarandana Munatera Manachare Yamunate Ravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya also Tera Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Mahashila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopala Sayam Kund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuram Ki Jai, Navadipnam Ki Jai, Jagadasami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda. So Om Ganat Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur and Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we're going to have a short version today of my empathic communication seminar, which I've been giving in different places like Chicago, Gita Nagari, and Europe, and different places. And so before we start, I want to read some quotes from Prabhupada, because empathic communication means to have understanding and feeling for other people's feelings and needs. And it's different than sympathy. Sympathy means it's about your feelings and needs in relationship to them. Empathy means it's about their feelings and needs and how you understand them. That's the difference. I'll give you an example. Anyway, let me read some quotes from Prabhupada first. From the Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, text 28. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me, in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up." And Prabhupada explains, although it is not mentioned here, still one can easily imagine that not only were Arjuna's bodily limbs quivering and his mouth drying up, but he was also crying out of compassion. Such symptoms in Arjuna were not due to weakness, but to his soft-heartedness, a characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. Another quote from the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, second chapter. Text 27, on that planet of Satyaloka, there is neither bereavement, nor old age, nor death. There is no pain of any kind, and therefore there are no anxieties, save that sometimes, due to consciousness, there is a feeling of compassion for those unaware of the process of devotional service who are subjected to the unsurpassable miseries of this material world. So it's a natural part of being a Vaishnava to be compassionate and that to be empathic with others, and not only for people's spiritual needs, but also for their material needs. And we're going to read some quotes about that a little bit later. So, a little bit of my own history. Don't think I need to introduce myself. Oh, does everybody know me by now? I hope, hopefully. I don't need to give my history. So a little bit about how I came to presenting this empathic communication. Of course, when I first joined the Krishna consciousness movement, my motivation wasn't so much for empathy. My motivation was to get the HELL out of this material world, which is liberation. Because I was suffering in the material world, and also I was looking for knowledge, those two things. As Krishna says in the Gita, Chaturvidha bhajanti mam. Everybody knows 4 types of people approach him. People are looking for wealth, people are inquisitive, people in distress, or people just looking for knowledge. So I had a little bit of mixture of all those different things. And when I joined the Krishna consciousness movement, I didn't experience so much empathy other than from Krishna's holy names. Because generally people were engaged in a process of judgment. I became a devotee, and previously I was a demon. It was really good, transformation of self. And then I was a spaced out brahmachari after that. Like some people we won't mention. So I was a spaced out brahmachari after that. Then I became other things like, enthusiastic brahmachari, and I won't go through the whole list of everything I became through the whole sojourn of my time in the Krishna consciousness movement. I'm still in it. It hasn't ended yet. So it was a journey, but then I started to experience some pain from the dealings I was experiencing in the Hare Krishna movement. And I was wondering, why we're supposed to be the most compassionate, loving society in the whole world. Krishna is God, chant his holy names, Vanchakalpa Ruvyas Cha, you got all these different, Kripa Sindhu, sorry. Kripa Sindhu Vyeva Cha, so you got all these different statements. And I was basically the subject of some denigration from time to time. I'm not going to get into the details to protect the innocent. And seeing all these different name callings that were going on, anger that was being manifest, unresolved conflicts. Incidentally, conflicts are not bad. Anger is not bad. But if the conflicts are not resolved properly, then that's the issue. And if anger is not dealt with properly, that's the issue too. It's the all devouring sinful enemy in this world: lust, anger, greed, kamesha, krodesha, rajaguna samodbhava, as the Gita tells us. So I began to think, what's up with Krishna consciousness? Chant Hare Krishna and be happy, and join hands and chant Kumbaya. You ever heard of that before? I think, we're not chanting Kumbaya, we're not, I was happy when I was chanting. Chanting was good because it gave me a opportunity to escape from the conflicts. So, you understand? Because it was like an escape mechanism. So I began to wonder, what's up? Is there something that's not right about Krishna consciousness, or something that needs to be adjusted? And I examined the philosophy more thoroughly, and I came to the conclusion Krishna consciousness is perfect. And I'm still of the same opinion. But then I thought, what are we doing that is not in line with Krishna consciousness? So why are we experiencing these unresolved conflicts? So then I began to read various books about conflicts. And even one time I took a training course in becoming a mediator. That's not meat eater. There's a difference. Just English. English is a second language. Anyways, becoming a mediator. Because, and I took it with a very famous mediator, actually one of the world's most famous mediators. His name is Arnold Zak. Some of you may have heard, you can Google his name. Arnold Zak, and sub-teaching it was our own Braja Bihari. Everyone's heard of Braja Bihari before? And we learned how when people had a conflict, they could come to a win-win solution in that particular conflict. And I took the course, I became a certified, mediator. And I was thinking, but there's still a problem. Because in mediation, at least there's two different types of mediation. One type is dealing with a specific conflict. And the second type is what we call transformational mediation. It deals with more than just a conflict. Let's talk about a basic conflict. Let's say I was buying Mayapur's car, okay? I wanted his Camry. And he charged me, he said, it's great condition, Guru Maharaj. And he charged me, how much did you charge me? For me. $15,000, okay. So I get it, and I find out, because it's an electric car, it needs a new set of batteries, which is going to cost me how much?
For you, only 10,000.
10,000. And he's told me everything is all right. So then I go to him and say, take your car back and give me my money back. And he says, no, it's a deal. Because it says in the dotted line, as is, where is. And so I get very angry, and I threaten him, take him to court, whatever. And then the judge says, okay, we're sending this to mediation. And so I end up with this professional mediator, me and Mayapur one end, Just picture the whole thing. And it's a real conflict because he's supposed to be submissive. So we're in this professional mediation. And what happens is the mediator sits down with state your case, sits down with Mayapur, states your case, and then goes back and forth, tries to assess our needs, and eventually we come to a conclusion that Mayapur will refund me $2,000 of the money, right? Okay. So he refunds $2,000 of the money. I'm happy, sort of like a compromise here. But, I'm happy because I can still repair the batteries in the car. I got the car and everything like that. And he's happy because he made out like a killing in the sale. Because he still, stole my shirt off my back. So he's happy. But really the relationship is finished. Every time I see Mayapur from that time forward, he says, "Goy, I don't want anything to do with him." His wife's kind of nice, but, so that's why we have him here. So, you got to take the good with the bad. So, anyway, forgive me. So, just being funny about it, not serious. So that doesn't really transform the relationship. And that was my problem with mediation. It really, I wanted to have what Prabhupada describes and Srila Rupa Goswami describes as, loving relationships, Dadati pratigranati guyamakyati prichati bhungte bhojyate chaba. Everybody know that? No. This is from Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita, that the Krishna conscious movement, as Prabhupada explains in the purport, the Krishna conscious movement spreads by loving exchanges, giving prashadam, accepting prashadam, or selling your car, getting money from your car. Did I change something? Criticizing devotees and getting criticized in return. These are the nice, loving exchanges we have in our Krishna. I understand. Giving prashadam, accepting prashadam, giving gifts, accepting gifts. Incidentally, it's Father's Day in case anyone wants to give a gift. So, so that's a paid advertisement. So anyway, I wanted, joking aside, I wanted to do something to transform relationships. So I started studying different philosophers. There's modern philosophers generally, like not so much like Sartre or Nietzsche, but I started studying Maslow. I don't know if any of you heard about Maslow. And he really deals with what we call a hierarchy of needs, which you see here. This is a hierarchy of needs. And of course, he didn't talk about Krishna consciousness. Unfortunately, he was into self-actualization, like that. He called it that, which is sort of Mayavadi stuff. But in any case, so we talked about basic physical needs, like air, food, water, light, that we all need, obviously. And then he talked about more needs like play, fun, and as you go up, interdependence needs, acceptance, autonomy, celebration, and having meaning, self-worth, etc., and ultimately what he called self-actualization. So I was very impressed with that. But I was thinking, how does that jive with our Krishna conscious philosophy? Because the more Krishna conscious you get, the less you need anything except for Krishna consciousness. You can reduce your eating to nil. 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Anyone's heard about them? Nijahara, Vihara. And they gave up eating, they gave up sleeping. So what the hell are we doing with these other things here? It's just like, it's nonsense. Just chant Hare Krishna. You don't need food, air, light. Do you? You don't need recreation, fun, interdependence, friendship, any of these things. It's just, why be in Maya? Or love. Where's love? Love is there somewhere. Yeah. So you don't need it. Yeah, there it is. We got to erase that one. It's not good for sannyasi. So anyway, so you don't need any of those things. And yes and no. First of all, as long as we're in the material world, even if you're a pure devotee, you do need, if you take a pure devotee and you take all the air out of his room, what's going to happen? He's going to die. He's going to chant Hare Krishna as he dies. And you're going to go to hell because you've just committed a Vaishnava aparada in the meantime. It doesn't work. And you see, Prabhupada spent something like an hour or two a day having a massage. Interesting, isn't it? So Prabhupada was well aware of those needs. Because even when a pure devotee is a pure devotee, of course, is in this world, he has those needs. Of course, they're not as prominent, and mostly it's Krishna conscious, and he's happy even if everything else is taken away. I know that. But for the rest of us who are not pure devotees, anyone here not a pure devotee? Raise your hand if you're not a pure devotee. Okay. Gopal didn't raise his hand. So, Sadhvi didn't raise her hand either. So the rest of us who are not pure devotees, we got to be very aware of this. And I was thinking, is there any Shastric reference for that? So I started to examine the works of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who, as you know, is really, let's say, expert in applying elaborately. Of course, Prabhupada was expert, and all the acharyas are expert, obviously. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote more on applying Krishna consciousness in a practical way in this world. I mean, it wrote volumes and volumes and volumes of books about how to apply Krishna consciousness, practically. And he was very practical because most of our acharyas, or many of our acharyas, are renunciates. They're practical, but they don't set an example for us because they're renunciates. I mean, I'm a renunciate too, but anyway, if you haven't figured that one out. But, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in the Bhajan Rahasya and other literatures precisely about the same thing. I mean, he doesn't use the triangle like this, but he writes about the same exact thing, how we have material needs as well as spiritual needs, and there's quotes, which I don't have time to read, in order to remain stable and steady in Krishna consciousness. And then if you take Prabhupada's statements, specifically in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in regard to the story of Gajendra Mokshana. You've heard the story of Gajendra Mokshana? The liberation of Gajendra the elephant. Gajendra was an elephant, Hare Krishna. Gajendra was an elephant, and of course he was previously King Indradyumna and gotten cursed, but that's not the purpose of my telling the story. Gajendra was an elephant, and he was basically having a good time going swimming. Where was it? Hawaii? Yeah, he was swimming in the higher planets. But in that place where he was swimming, there was also a crocodile. And this crocodile grabbed hold of him and was dragging him into the water. Finally, he prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Krishna came and cut off the crocodile's head and liberated Gajendra. But the whole point Prabhupada makes in the purport is that Gajendra was not in the natural environment, right? His natural environment is the land. The crocodile's natural environment is where? Water. Got it. And so Prabhupada sort of took that as like a metaphor for us that devotees should be in a natural environment. Prabhupada in that purport talked about natural environment in terms of ashram, brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyas. And Prabhupada said, if one becomes weak in fighting Maya from a particular ashram, let him go to a different ashram and fight Maya. It's interesting in fighting Maya. I've never tried that. But anyway, Prabhupada used the expression fighting Maya, but he meant actually being Krishna conscious and somehow or other being aloof from the illusory energy. So don't take it literally, you're going to put up your fist and start fighting Maya. Because Mama Maya Durachaya, as Krishna says in the Gita. So therefore, I mean, there's statements of Prabhupada, statements of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So how to apply that? I was looking for and statements of Maslow. Maslow makes some really interesting statements. He has one statement, I don't have it right here, that's in which he says that in religious societies, people are generally in denial of their basic needs. And that foundational basic needs that they're in denial of basically color their whole process of religiosity. He's not talking about Krishna consciousness, but we're under the same guidelines or the same dynamics. They apply to us just as much as they apply to any other religion. Even though we're so proud we have the best philosophy, the best practices and everything like that, we still have function under the same type of social structures that other religions have functioned under. So when you're studying religion, as I have, and also reading on Nandamars, who's studied religion to quite an extent, you'll see that there's certain dynamics that come into play. For example, when the main acharya or guru leaves the planet, in every single religion, and it's exactly the same thing that we had when Prabhupada left the planet. So, therefore, we may have a transcendental philosophy, but we are not so transcendental. We should be humble. Humble means to understand, introspective enough to understand one's position in this world. You know, I'd like to think I was a pure devotee, but it doesn't work. Even pure devotees don't think that they're pure devotees. When I first joined the movement, I thought I was a pure devotee. I would sit with the other brahmacharis, and we would talk about how we were all coward boys. And we'd read Krishna book and read about, Subal and Sudam and how they play with Krishna. Yeah, that's us, we must be, On that platform, I'm a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When I would go to sleep at night, I'd pray to Krishna to kill me, so I go back to Godhead. And I was an illusion about the whole thing. So let us understand our position, introspective enough to understand what needs we have within this world. So eventually, with all this studying and being in Maya, like I usually am, I came to the teachings of someone named Marshall Rosenberg. And somehow or other, I guess it was serendipity. I don't know how I came to it. Anyway, so I came to his teachings, and I found they were very much in line to a certain extent, because he's a Buddhist. But as we know, we're supposed to take gold. I don't want to say it was a filthy place, but we're supposed to take gold from any place. If you find gold, if I found gold in the latrine, I would dive in. Or I'd send Mayapur to get it. Because he surrendered. I mean, it's just like it says, one's supposed to accept a wife if she's qualified from any caste or any culture. Because I'm a sannyasi, I won't do that. But Chanakya Pandit says that. Even though so many people are attached to their, the caste, subcaste, and everything like that. But Chanakya Pandit says one should be accepted. So if knowledge comes from some place that's not Krishna conscious, it's all right. Isn't it? But of course, we have to have the discrimination not to accept.
Trying to get the volume up in the kitchen.
All right, don't turn up the volume here. It's too loud here already for me. So we have to have the discrimination to not accept those things that are not Krishna conscious. I mean, for example, I'll tell you what happened. I've gone to many or some of Marshall Rosenberg's intensive workshops. We had a 10-day intensive workshop. And there was stuff there that wasn't Krishna conscious. I mean, for example, everyone was talking about compassion and love and whatever. And we would all sit down and eat together. And sometimes, or every day, there was meat being served. So it's not that I accepted everything. I was just thinking, in my judgmental way, these people are hypocritical, but very nice, compassionate way to think. I mean, one time they were serving chicken for dinner. Of course, I didn't eat the chicken, I assure you. I went to the nearby supermarket and got raw food, and I was sitting down eating raw food while they were eating everything else. Anyway, they appreciated it. I had some energy bars, too. So the cook announced, tonight we have chicken cacciatore, or whatever it is. I don't have it. And I yelled out. I was so angry at the whole thing. I said, what about compassion for the chicken? And they, some of the other members yelled at me, and I was friends with them. I made friends with them. They yelled, you should have compassion for the cook. And I said, what about the chicken? And so this went back and forth a little bit. Chicken cook, chicken cook, chicken cook. Because she cooked with her heart. I said, what about the chicken's heart? So in this way, I wasn't accepting. Everything was taught. But basically, he was teaching the method of understanding how everybody in this world and in the spiritual world is always at all times acting feeling, thinking in terms of needs that are met or not met. And we're going to talk about needs in a second. So this is a very important point. Everybody is trying to fulfill their needs at all times, and even spiritual needs. Like after this whole Sunday Feast program, you'll have a need for food, so you go there, and we use the air conditioning because you have a need, just to be comfortable. So anyway, so that's the basic point. And then he presented, we're talking about Marshall Rosenberg, a system for understanding those needs on an individual basis and a societal basis, and becoming more compassionate with each other and understanding each other's needs and being what we call non-judgmental. So I studied, I adapted, I wrote a book, and later on we're going to have a whole case of the books. Anyone wants to buy a book, special discount today. The books will be available right after this or during the Sunday Feast lecture, which we're going to integrate some of the teachings into the lecture. So anyway, that's how I got to do what I'm doing. And I'm very pleased that after studying all these things, I learned that one can be Krishna conscious without having to chant 16 rounds. And I learned that one can be Krishna conscious without having to follow the 4 regulative principles. What a relief! Isn't it? What a relief. I didn't have to do any of those things. That's the operative phrase, of course, have to. I didn't say you should chant 16 rounds. But to change our consciousness in different ways so that at every moment we're having joy in our relationships, in our process of sadhana bhakti, and eliminating this negative aspect of feeling you have to do something, you're pushed to do something, eliminating the judgments that we have with each other that separate us from each other. Now, what I experienced in the Krishna consciousness movement, I want to make clear, is not the judgmental stuff, the lack of compassion, which people comment on from the outside too. Many people have told me, you devotees, have the best philosophy, most compassionate philosophy in the world, but your actions, not really so good. This is not something that's unique to us. It's actually part or a dynamic that occurs in every religious organization. Why does that dynamic occur in every religion? In fact, there's been studies that show that 80% of people in religious organizations are less compassionate than the people in general in society. That may come as a shock. And 20% of people in religious organizations are more compassionate than people in society. So why are people outside of religious organizations, and as I said, this applies across the board, why they're generally more compassionate? And that's due to a dynamic that you have in practically every religious organization, and that dynamic is labeling, what we call judgments. Because when you join a religious organization, you're given a whole vocabulary of judgments. Some of them are derogatory judgments, some of them positive judgments. But just like when we joined Krishna consciousness, we were given different judgments, different ways to judge people. I mean, for example, people who are not members of the Krishna consciousness movement, or not Gaudiya Vaishnavas, or not religious people, they're considered what? Anybody have an idea? Karmis, demons, rakshasas, materialists. Any other word for them? Mayavadis, that's a good one. Malecha, Yavana, Rakshasa. I mean, in the full seminar, we have a whole flip chart, and everybody has a good time picking out their favorite designations, And also, we have other ones that are non-religious, like idiot, jackass, spaced out. But these we use all the time in the Krishna consciousness movement. As soon as you join the movement, they sit you down with this vocabulary book, and you get tested. What's a malecha? What's a dog? Not just something with 4 legs. It's a human being. Well, actually, like a dog. Hogs, dogs, camels, asses. I had one devotee who passed away. Mother Krishna Priya knows him. He used to just like repeat verbatim the Bhagavatam verses when he went on Sankirtan. You remember Varnashram. And he would tell the people who was distributing books that you're a hog, dog, a camel, or an ass. That went over really well with people. People said, I love you, We want to join this movement. So that's the big reason, the biggest reason. There's other reasons we're going to go through. The biggest reason why we don't connect with each other, why we have these other relations, because we're putting labels on people a lot of the time, if not most of the time, and not all the time. We're very attached to this, and our language lends itself to that because we have the verb to be in our language. When you say, you are this, it is a this, he is a this, she is a this. There's actually studies, linguistic experts have studied languages where they don't have the verb to be. In other words, they have what's called a process language. Anyone ever heard of that before? In a process language, you just talk about what's happening right now, be here now, whatever. You talk about things that are happening. I'm happy, I am feeling happy, I'm feeling sad, but you don't talk about designating people. And there's less conflicts in those particular cultures where they don't have the verb to be, because they don't have a way to point their finger at anybody. It's everything is just more empathic. So that's actually one of the main things. So moving ahead, let's talk about the different things that disconnect us, what we call the blocks of communication. We're going to do some exercises as we go through this. There's not only designations or diagnoses, as Marshall Rosenberg calls them, but there's three other things that we're going to talk about. First thing, of course, is the diagnosis. Now, the diagnosis, when we diagnose people, let's say, if I call Gokulendra, what should I call you? Unsubmissive. Spaced out. Anyway, so the diagnosis points out something, because everything is connected to the needs. See these needs here? So this chart really shows us what's happening. Of course, this is the process which we'll get to in a few minutes. So needs are very central to the whole understanding of empathic communication. As I said before, everybody does everything, feels whatever they feel, whatever, because of needs fulfilled or unfulfilled. Try to remember that. If you know that, you practically know the whole empathic communication system. There's just few little details. So let's say I call Gokulendra, spaced out, whatever. What else should I call you? Whatever. Unsubmissive. Brahmachari. It's interesting. You can use terms that are not really negative in a negative way according to your tone of voice or your body language. Most communication is body language and tone of voice. Only like 8% of the words. So I could say, for example, I could say brahmachari. Oh, here's a brahmachari. Here's a brahmachari. One of these brahmacharis. So anyway, so let's say I say spaced out, hopeless, whatever. It's unsubmissive. I don't really feel that way. I feel that you have hope. So you have some potential. So let's say I say that. It's not that I just say, oh, I'm in Maya for saying that. Ooh, I'm not empathic. Don't do that. You can think, I'm saying this. Why? Because I have some need. What is my need? Right now it's for play, fun. Because life should be fun. If you're not having fun with life, you better do something different or change your mindset. You can have fun in, I wouldn't say any circumstance, but you can have fun and be connected even if you're in a physically miserable situation. I'll give you an example that I use oftentimes. That a bank teller is sitting in a little cubicle all day long. That is a miserable situation. You put me in it. It's a miserable situation. It's like solitary, not quite solitary confinement, but it's like no jail cell is that tight, except what the Nazis did. But the bank teller is thinking in love of their family, how that they're working. I have a picture of their little baby Petunia, a little baby, whatever, Abhimanyu. Anyways, Padma. Little baby Mayapur. So the bank teller is thinking in love. So she's actually in love. She's physically in that situation, but she's happy, obviously, if she's connected to why she's doing what she's doing. Oftentimes, we're not connected. We don't think of what we're doing, why we're doing it. And that's another big problem with religion. Religion, niyamagraha. That niyamagraha means to do things without being connected. Like we chant certain shlokas, for example. In the beginning of the day, we have this Mangal Arti, which I don't think anyone here has been to. So, but it's I won't point anyone out in particular. So we chant what some people call the samsara prayers. So the word samsara literally means, the continued birth and death in the material world. Let's chant the prayers to continued birth and death in the material world. The cycle of repeated death, isn't it? So you say something like that without thinking about what you're saying, and then you chant the prayers without even thinking about what you're saying, and you get very ritualistic. You put yourself on automatic, right? And when you put yourself on automatic, your mind goes somewhere and your body's doing something different. So Krishna consciousness doesn't mean that, neither does empathy. It means always to be connected. So if I pass, getting back to the judgment, if I pass this judgment on him, then, what would be my need? Right now, as I said, is play, fun, and everything like that. It may be, wouldn't be for one of these things. It may be something like, not here, but like efficiency, or some need I have in running the temple. There are other needs that are not in this chart, or a need for understanding. So, but it's not an effective strategy for that. Calling him names is a horrible strategy, right? Does it work? It works. Well, that's his culture. But anyway, so where I come from, calling names doesn't work. What works is talking about, listening, sitting down. It's like when you're dealing with children. When you call them names, you destroy their self-esteem, right? At least, pejorative names. You destroy their self. I remember my mother, she used to tell me, and I still suffer because of that, is my mother. Usually in the seminars, I bring out my mother quite a bit because I love her. I only talk about the people I love, so don't worry. So like my mother told me when I was young, because I kept losing things, that if your head wasn't attached to your shoulders, you'd lose it. So that didn't help me, find things better. Nowadays, I have to have at least, 5 sets of glasses in my house because I keep leaving my glasses in different places, and at least I have a spare somewhere else in some other corner of the house because of what my mother said. God bless her. So when you call people names, I say you're spaced out. And if I say it enough times, people start to believe it. Just like in present politics, the name shall remain, I won't mention the names to protect the innocent. So in present politics, they keep saying something over and over and over again. People believe it after a while. Fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. Okay, fake news. Everything's fake news. So it doesn't help to call people names. We have to go to the needs. All right, so quickly moving, that's the first block. And The second block, that's called diagnosis. We already went through some of the diagnoses that we have in Krishna consciousness, right? Which really disconnect us from each other. You know, one diagnosis we have that I always like to use is Prabhus and Matajis. Now, we're not saying that men are have the same type of body as women. That's not the point. But the way it's said is in maybe not completely derogatory ways, but sort of like to put someone else down. This is, the Prabhu means what? Masters. Here's the masters and here's the mothers. So there's an implicit message behind the use of those different designations. So I think we should do an exercise just to bring this out. Okay, here's an exercise. This is very interesting. Usually we use a label for this. Two volunteers. Gopal? Okay, another man, because we should. Who wants? What? You want to do this? Okay. This gets a little heavy. All right. So I'm gonna whisper in his ear and give him a label, and you think of Gopal in terms of that label, and then you try to have a discussion with him about fixing up the temple. Okay? So the label is. Whoops. Thank you for that. Got it?
Okay.
Yeah, I would have given it away. Okay, so you fix up the temple. The stairs need to be cleaned. So talk about it.
Okay. What's my role? Am I asking?
No, you just talk about it. You don't know your label. He knows your label. You don't.
Okay.
Am I to say what his label is?
No, just act. Think of him. Think of like it's pasted on his forehead.
Okay.
And this is him. This is him. This is his identity. You've labeled him with a static designation. It's no longer Gopal. He is the label. And, just like when you deal with someone all the time, generally you have a label, that you put on people. Isn't it? Don't we usually do that with people? Just one or two or three different labels every day. It's very common. As soon as we see someone, that's the idiot, or that's the nonsense, that's the whatever. Okay. So just talk about how the dome needs to be cleaned with him.
Okay, you're here every day. Every single day you're here, and it seems to me you just go outside. You say you're doing your chanting, but are you really doing your chanting? You don't seem like you're doing your chanting. You're just hanging on the side here, but you're talking on your phone all day. A lot of work needs to be done.
You're right.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you are a Krishna consciousness, and you're applying all the rules properly. But a lot of work needs to be done.
Okay.
So what we need to do is just go over this again. We go through this every single day, which I don't mean to tell them. I don't tell this to anybody. It's between me and you. But we gotta. I do my work. My wife does hers. My kids do theirs too. But why can't you do yours?
I'm lazy.
Well, you got. All right, that's good. Okay, you sit down. That's enough. So, hey. Well, that's good. So his designation was not lazy, actually. It was idiot. But he gave himself another designation, and he illustrated. So you see how it had shaped his attitude, even just me giving it to him. And he didn't have that attitude before, but I imposed that attitude on him, and it shaped his whole relationship with Gopal. And Gopal took on a designation too. That's another thing. Not only do labels disconnect us from other people, but they disconnect us from ourselves. I mean, All right, so let me ask some questions. This is actually good. It came out. Thank you, Gopal, for doing that. So last time, and just you can raise your hand if you want to answer this question. Last time you made a mistake, what did you call yourself? Idiot? Who?
Loser.
A loser. Anyone else? Any other volunteers? Anybody ever use the term jackass? No? What, do you have a Hindi term? You don't abuse yourself. Oh, good. But most of us do. Anyone ever think of themselves as being useless? Hopeless? Loser? So, what's that? Yeah. So what that does, it disconnects us from ourselves, and it keeps us from really addressing the need. Of course, it's good to be aware of that particular judgment, because judgment are unfortunate expressions of unfulfilled needs. Try to remember that. They do represent something, as does anger. Because when we get angry, generally, and I want to talk about this more at the Sunday feast, after the kirtan. Generally, when we get angry, we try to repress or suppress our anger, isn't it? It's not good, lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy. It's an anartha. I get all these anarthas. I mean, this is actually a way to deal with anarthas, too. I mean, ultimately, we chant Hare Krishna, we get rid of the anartha nivritti. But right now, our anarthas represent some unfulfilled need, like envy. Let's say you're envious. Let's say I'm envious of Mayapur's car. Revealing my heart. Yeah, anyways, is a better car? No, I like my car better. But anyway, so let's say we were driving down the road the other day, and Mayapur pointed out that's a Tesla, right? Remember the Tesla? So I'm experiencing envy. So what possible need could that be? That I want a Tesla. Anybody know? Beauty, efficiency. I want to be appreciated.
He's better than me.
Just like before I joined the movement, I had what was it? On a convertible, what was it? A Firebird. You know what Firebird is? Took down the top, was waving. What was need? Friendship, love, and all those other nice things. So, I mean, even it's a way to look at anarthas rather than beat yourself up. Generally we just at least I do, we beat ourselves up, isn't it? Oh, this lust is in my heart. God, I'm an idiot, I'm a lusty dog. This envy, this, fear. Just like someone saw a snake the other day, right? That's an anartha. You can look at it that way. You're not supposed to be fearful. Abhaya sattva samsudi jnana yoga vastatahi. You know that verse? Where's your jnana yoga, Champa? So anyway, but instead of looking at it like that, well, why? I needed protection, shelter, whatever it is. Shelter, here it is. So instead of beating yourself up, look at it as a need that you're trying to fulfill. So in religion, generally, or in many cases, we try to beat ourselves up. So that's the first, what we call D of disconnection. I should have had a chart about that. But maybe when we come back after the kirtan, we can put that chart. Maybe you can make some of the 4 Ds of discommunication. So that is called diagnosis. And actually, doctors do that too. Sometimes it's good to diagnose, and other times it disconnects the doctor from the patient. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of this doctor called Patch Adams. Anyone's heard of him? Yeah, Patch Adams. So he was a doctor who did treat patients, but he used to dress up like a clown all the time. And he didn't see patients as a disease, he saw patients as persons. You understand? Like now if you go to a hospital, people, will go into your hospital room and they'll say, hey, there's the hernia over there. I say, I don't feel like a hernia. I feel like a person. Just like when I had my operation, I guess they did treat me like a person. It was pretty good. They didn't treat me like, but the doctor just came in. The doctor didn't treat me like a person who operated on it. He just came in, oh, there's a hernia. Oh. But the nurses were kind of nice. They were empathic. Isn't it my word? But the doctor I saw for literally half a minute at most. He just took his little crayon and marked out where he was going to cut the hernia and didn't, Hare Krishna, here I am, like that. So anyway, so even in medicine, it's better that the doctors treat the patients as, persons, and the persons who have this particular challenge. So that's the first D. The second D is called denial of responsibility. That's a big disconnection, both on a personal basis and an interpersonal basis. And I'll give you an example of what I mean about denying responsibility, because everything we do, every action or everything we say is based on these needs, fulfilled or unfulfilled. So, whoops, oh, it's still on. So we will not take responsibility in many cases for our actions. For example, we place the blame on something we did or some way that we acted on something else or someone else. Now, here's an example. Let's see, pick another person. I've been picking on people. Okay, Adi Purush, it's your fault I'm angry. So, people, you do that all the time, especially like in intimate situations, husband and wife and people like that. You blame each other for their own emotions. I am angry because of you. And even someone who has some challenge, let's say they drink a lot, they will say, I drink because I'm an alcoholic. You ever hear that statement before? I drink, or I lied because the temple president told me to do it. Or like in Germany in World War II, during World War II, the Nazis had this excuse, I did it because I was just following orders. So this is denying one's responsibility. And to be empathic means to take responsibility for all of one's actions and thoughts. Responsibility means I am angry because I have this need. I didn't get enough to eat. I'm hungry. I need food. That's bona fide, isn't it? I mean, generally when people don't get food or they're very hungry, they're pretty cranky. Anyone experience that? Yeah, you're pretty cranky. I have one friend that sometimes I need to borrow money from. I just make sure he eats first before I talk to him. And then when I talk to him, it's whatever I want, He knows what I'm doing because I've done it at least 20 times. He knows it's manipulative, but still gives in because a full belly. What is that? Barriga llena, corazón contenta, right? When the stomach is full, the heart is content. So that's the second block of what we call discommunication. And we always have a choice in every single circumstance. Remember I talked about that I learned how to be Krishna conscious without having to chant 16 rounds, without having to follow the 4 regulative principles? Well, I use the word having to, because when we feel we have to do something, then it's harder to enter into the spirit of doing that. When you feel you have to chant, like if you go to to pick up your japa beads and why are you chanting 16 rounds? Well, I have to. It's my vow. Then you're really not going to be so inclined to connect to the 16 rounds. So we'd like to change the language to choose to, which is really true. That's a taking responsibility language. Why do for example, everybody knows that, not everybody, but a lot of people know that I go to Mangalarti on a regular basis. I'm choosing to go to Mangalarti. And when you're taking this have to, it's a very heavy thing and you won't want to go to Mangalarti. And if it's imposed, we've seen this with the second generation, third generation in our movement, when the parents impose the spiritual principles as a have to, the children develop a distaste for that particular activity. And later on in life, they find it very difficult to do that particular activity. I have one disciple in Europe whose mother forced him to wake up at 3 o'clock every morning when he was 7 or 8 years of age and do RT and puja and everything like that. And now he finds it impossible to wake up earlier than 8 or 9 in the morning. Even if he wants to, it's called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So that's a lot of that comes from the have to. I mean, there's other things. When you go to the army, you get PTSD. That's not what I'm talking about. But you can give yourself PTSD by this have to language. Then you feel forced. I have to chant my 16 rounds. So what I do is I change the wording in my mind. Instead of, I have to go to Mangalarti this morning, or this damn alarm clock. I even get a lot angry at the alarm clock. Anyone's gotten angry at your computer? Never? Okay, everybody. So sometimes I feel, boom. Smashing the alarm clock, smashing the computer. Because you can get away with it, right? I just tell the devotees it just fell off the shelf. Isn't it? Nobody, because everybody will believe me. So, so when you change the language to choose to, you really connect with the activity. It's really beautiful. You say, I am choosing to go to Mangalarti, but you got to have a reason. You can't just say, I'm choosing to. You got to say, I'm choosing to, here's the needs again, I'm choosing to because I want to connect with Krishna. And even if you don't want to connect with Krishna, you want to have fun with the devotees. Sometimes it's fun. I mean, this morning we were Mangalarti, it was fun because we had this nice devotee, Sri Arjun, playing the drum. He's great on the drum. He is pizzazz. Anyways, isn't it? You can learn. So anyways, no, you played drum nicely. So he was there. It was actually so much fun. I was just thinking, boy, this is better than a disco this morning. Because, anyway, so I choose to chant my japa because I want to connect with Krishna, I want to connect with Prabhupada, I want to be happy. I mean, all these different reasons. You can definitely give yourself, and it's not artificial. It has to be something that's really from the heart. You can't just go down the list and say, Guru Maharaj, give me a reason for chanting this morning. And as I mentioned in my japa seminar, every day you have a different reason for chanting, depending on what you want to connect with. Sometimes I chant japa in the morning and I'm thinking, praying for Mayapur. So, my dear Lord Krishna, Hare Krishna, please save Mayapur. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And I feel real connected to the holy names because of the sankalpa. You understand? Instead of I have to, I must. And that's part of getting away from this denial of responsibility, to take responsibility for everything you're doing and choosing to do something, and don't do anything because you had to. Okay, so here's a question for all of you. Can someone, if some of you tell me something you have to do, and we're going to try to transform it into, do you have to, Toto, you have to go to work? Okay, let's try this one. Then we're going to try Toto for a second. Toto has to go to work. It's like, what is this song? Oh, how I hate to get up in the morning. Does it resonate with you?
Yeah, I do.
So how would you transform that to be something pleasant going to work? It's a tough one.
No, I mean, I know I'm supporting my family so they can focus on
So you want your family, yeah, you have a need for your family to be taken care of. I mean, that's definitely a need. We can have need for other people who we love. You know, we have to be careful of the word need, because sometimes you want someone, you're not doing it, but sometimes people say, I need you to listen to me. That's not a need. But a need for other people's welfare who you love certainly is a need. Like when I'm chanting japa for my boy, I have a need for him to be Krishna conscious. So, so if you transform your thought patterns, like when you go to work and you're thinking, I really want my family to be Krishna conscious, I want them to be happy, I want to have enough food on the table tonight so when you come, no, that's just a joke. Then it becomes much more pleasant. No? Try it. Yeah, I usually just joke. He has a need for fun, that's why I said that. But it becomes much more pleasant when you think like that. Yeah. I'm so grateful I have a job, but it still has to be connected to a need. I'm so grateful I have a job because I have a need, I have a need for, love and closeness to my family, because you get kicked out of the house if you didn't have a job. Get to work, you, whatever. Anyway, I'm just teasing, just teasing. So, anyway, so we can transform. Does anyone else have a have to they want to work on transforming? Yes.
Yeah, this is something I discovered in 1990. I started doing something twice a day versus once.
Yeah.
Since I was a little boy, that's brushing my teeth.
Brushing your teeth.
But I had to force myself to do it, and it was like, I told myself, I'm going to have bad breath, it's going to be costing me more money to have my teeth fixed.
Good.
If you're not true to your teeth will be false to you.
That's true. I gotta remember that. If you're not true to your teeth will be false to you. I love that saying. We should memorialize that saying. If you're not true to your teeth will be false to you.
So I had to brush my teeth, and I don't care if I was drunk that night, I don't care.
Well, he's honest at least. Yeah. So he wanted health. That's one of the basic needs. Very good. Anyone else have a have to? That's very good. And you transformed it yourself. I'm choosing to brush my teeth. It's an austerity, brushing your teeth, because I want good health. Instead of I have to. Instead of my mother telling me I had to brush my teeth twice a day after every meal. I tell you, everything my mother told me, I don't do. My mother told me, one thing my mother told me I have to do is when I put on new clothes, I have to put all the other clothes in a hamper. You know what a hamper is? Hamper is like a place. I never did it. Even to this day. And it helps to be a guru. Even it's part of the job description, you get to throw your clothes all over the place and people pick up after you. People say, I go to people's homes, sometimes they say, there's a hamper for your clothes, Maharaj. I never do it. That's rebellion, and that's good. So what's another, let's transform another have to. You have to exercise. So why are you exercising? Why? Okay, good. So you want to have health. So that's why you do things. And one interesting thing you can do is you could always ask yourself, why am I doing this? And sometimes the first why doesn't work. You got to go drill down to 3 or 4 whys. Someone may say, why am I going to work? Because this way my wife won't yell at me. That's not a good why. Then you say, but why don't you want, the way you figure it out, you say, why don't your wife to yell at you? It makes my life miserable. So you want peace. Okay. So it's a strategy for peace. You're going to work. Nice. Anyway. All right, so that's the second one. The third D, remember we talked about 2 Ds so far? Does everybody remember what they were? What was the first one? Diagnosis, denial of responsibility. The third one is called a demand. When you demand things from people. I mean, for example, Jai Shishi Radhagalukananda, Radhagalukananda Ki Jai. We only got 45 more minutes. So when you demand things from people, people they have 2 choices. They do it, or they don't do it, but if they do it, they don't do it with their hearts when you're demanding it. And I'm going to give you an example that I use for showing people how to raise their children. Who wants to be a child? Let's take Dira. All right, and okay, come right here. This is, and you should be like a child, down on the ground. Okay, and look at me, and I'm your adult. This is the perspective. You know, part of being empathic means to see people from their perspective. It's called perspective taking. So this is the perspective, a child, even greater perspective. Here's this giant Kumbhakarna guy. How do you think the kids see the parents? You know, this is like giant guy who controls every aspect of my life. Ooh. And so now I'm going to ask you to, let's say you're a little kid, and I want you to go to your room. So, okay, go to your room, and you're going to be not so cooperative anyway. Go to your room, Dira.
Why?
Go, because I'm your father. I'm your guru.
I don't want to go to my room.
I said go to your room. You're committing a mad elephant offense. You know, taking both roles here, which is kind of funny. Go to your room now.
But there's nothing.
I said it. Okay. You go. So he went to his room eventually. But how did you feel when you agreed to go to your room?
Scared.
Scared. And was that a good relationship to have with your guru? No. I'll have to forgive me later on. Anyways. So this is what. Thank you. Did anyone ever? Oh, maybe I shouldn't ask this question. Did anyone ever get treated that way by their parents? The standard. And you felt exactly like that. You felt disempowered, and you know, basically, you may have cooperated. You have a choice. You can cooperate, but it's not cooperation, actually. You can obey. Forgive me for using the word cooperation. You can obey, but you're really just thinking all sorts of nasty thoughts about that creepy old guy or woman who asked you to do those things, isn't it? You're thinking, oh, mother. I mean, frankly, honestly, I love my mother and everything, but I used to pray that she would go on vacation. This is one of my first prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And, you know, practically, I was very rebellious because of that. I mean, she gave me one order, for example. Don't ever go in this room that has my antique furniture. And, you know, when children hear and know, what do they hear? Do it. Wow, that's fun. So as adults, we feel the same way. I feel the same way as an adult. When I'm told not to do something, unless there's reason behind it, you know, the 4 regulated principles, I understand the reason. I'm not following the 4 regulated principles because they're supposed to, I have to do it. I'm following because there's a reason. I can explain each and every one of them, but we don't have time for them. But there's actually a good reason for following those. So, so as soon as my mother left the house, for one reason or other, I went into that room, and me and my brother used those antique furniture couches as trampolines. And I never had so much fun in my life. I remember to this day, jumping up and down. What do you think, Ishwara? It sounds fun? Were ever told to do nothing, not to do something? No? He cannot say to protect himself. So it becomes more fun. So that's demand language. And Krishna in the Gita doesn't use that demand language. I mean, he tells Arjuna what's best for him. He explains everything very nicely in terms of what we call repercussions. But Krishna doesn't do that. At the end of the Gita, he says, now you've heard it, do what you want. He doesn't say, he's not like our mothers and fathers who said, if Krishna was acting like my mother or father. No, my father never did that. So if Krishna was acting like mother, he would have said at the end of the Gita, now Arjuna, I've told you what to do. You do it, and if you don't do it, you're killing me. You're going to be the reason. You're going to, because I'm God, I can't die. But you're going to cause me so much emotional pain. It's unbelievable, Arjuna. Has anyone ever experienced that with their parents? Yeah, I have. When I joined the Hare Krishna movement, I tell the story all the time. But I joined the Hare Krishna movement, I got a message from my mother, told by someone else, that my mother was dying because I joined the Hare Krishna movement. And of course, I knew enough of the philosophy to say, if she does pass away, she'll take a better birth because I'm a devotee. But to this day, she hasn't died. And she's 91 years old. She goes, I just saw her, she took her to Rath Yatra and everything. She swims and drives a car, so I guess it didn't work, And I joined the Hare Krishna. I joined the Hare Krishna movement out of rebellion. All right, so, okay, here is just a question. Usually we do this as an exercise with two people, with each other, but I'm just going to do it with everybody. Can someone remember a time when they were forced to do something and they're willing to share with me how they felt doing it? Anyone? Volunteers? I already shared my times. Yeah, Gardner.
When I went to this, let's just call it institution, they were like, right after we were done, they're like, all right, bed, breakfast, chores, and like we were kind of forced to do that. I didn't really like doing it. I was like, oh man, I just wanted to sleep.
Did you feel angry or anything? Or?
Yeah.
So Gopal, that's good, Swagarnam, thank you. Homework.
In school.
And how did you feel doing it? Or you didn't do it?
I didn't do it.
Okay. You joined the Hare Krishna movement. Yeah. Oh, that's a big one. And how'd you feel? And how do you feel towards that particular food today? Was it a particular type of food, or what was it?
It was scrambled eggs with little pieces of onion, and that was
Well, obviously
little pieces of onion were like little bugs.
obviously we're not forcing you to eat that today. This is the Krishna conscious movement. I mean, yeah, I was forced to eat something called borscht. Everybody knows that story when I was young, which is like beetroot soup. And so now anytime someone brings it before me, I get angry with them. So anyone else want to share something that we're forced to do and how they feel about it? Yeah.
I was forced to work at my stepfather's mother's house,
Yeah.
hauling, just like cleaning up the yard, hauling stuff.
How do you feel about it?
Pretty bad.
Angry or?
Yeah, I was like, I was angry, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happens when you're forced to do something. You're not doing it from the heart. Yeah, Krishna Priya.
I was forced to go downtown Miami where it was sacred time
By me.
and collect money.
And that was me, right? No, but I was kind. Anyways. Oh my God. True confessions. All right. And so how do you feel about it?
Well, at the time I felt really embarrassed, and I had also wanted to be in theater, but I was told not to be in theater and to go down there. And then somebody came by and they filmed me, and I thought, oh no, this is not the kind of theater I want to be in. So I felt embarrassed at the time, but then afterwards I felt happy because I was with friends and speaking Spanish.
So I did the right thing.
But
So that's it.
at the time I felt forced and it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And then yesterday, actually the day before yesterday, Sheshri came through immigration and they forced you to give your phone and everything like that. And how'd you feel? What? Uncomfortable, violated, everything like that. You know, so that was, it's very intense when you're forced to do something. So it's not fun. But on the other hand, when you do something voluntary, then it's like a loving exchange. Like someone does something, and I don't even ask them to do it, then that's blissful. Can anyone think of some time when they did something for someone when they weren't asked to do it? No one's ever done anything for someone without being asked to do? Oh my God. No? Yeah, Rishikesh.
This is for my mother.
You did what with your mother?
My mother?
Yeah.
She was having high diabetes. And
Yeah.
there was no one taking her off. I was very young at that time, but I was...
Took her to the doctor. And how did you feel that you just did this voluntarily?
I felt good.
Felt good, happy, wonderful, warm inside. So this is what and then when someone does that for you, I mean, if someone does something for me and they're forced to do it, I don't really want to accept it. Like if someone is, let's say if someone cooks for me because they have to, then I don't want to eat that stuff. And I don't even think Krishna will eat it. Because Krishna is a person. I've had experience that sometimes, it didn't happen here, don't worry. But in some other temples, that you put the deity plate in front of the offering plate in front of the deities, and then you come in to collect it later, and it's all on the floor. Did that ever happen here? No, it never happened here.
No, actually one time here, the deity plates went in front of the deities and Krishna took some of the dog.
Well, Krishna ate it. That's even better. But so Krishna is a person. So he reciprocates with your internal mood. If you're doing deity worship as a niyamagraha, just simply as a ritual because you have to do it, the temple president forced you to do it, then maybe Krishna won't accept. Maybe the people are eating bhoga instead. Krishna says, patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati. I accept things offered with love and devotion. Love and devotion means voluntary. So that's what happens at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. Anyway, and just the last block, time is running out, is what we call deserve. So we had demands and deserve. Deserve is a little bit more subtle than the other ones. Like someone deserves to be punished. Let's take Yamaraj, for example. Everybody knows Yamaraj? Too well. So, we'll all get a chance to see him in the near future. So, there's some politicians who will see him a little sooner than us. Anyway, so Yamaraj is punishing people. And one way you look at it, you could say, they deserve it. I deserve to be punished, or they deserve to be punished, right? But not really. Yamaraj is punishing people for the principle of rectification. There's actually two theories of justice. One is called retributive justice, and the other one's called restorative justice. Anyone's heard of that before? Yeah. Retributive justice is that you punish people because they deserve to suffer. like you deserve. I remember should I give the example of sannyasi? No, Christian people. Yeah, I'll give the example. So I was traveling in the old days in the Hare Krishna movement when sannyasis were not kind and gentle and sweet. And I was traveling with this sannyasi who should remain nameless to protect the not-so-innocent. So he was chastising me for something. I don't remember what. And I didn't do it. And I said, I didn't do it. And he says, it doesn't matter whether you did it or not. You deserve to be chastised because you're walking around with a material body. The material body is evidence of your envy of Krishna. It's like the Scarlet Letter. You ever heard that story? The Scarlet Letter, this lady committed adultery. She had to wear an A on her T-shirt the rest of her life. So, I have to walk around in this material body. I don't remember everything that ever happened to me my whole life, but things that were really traumatic, I remember. And that's one of the things that's traumatic, that when people say you deserve to suffer. Or my mother one time said, I'm going to make it so you can't sit for a week. And I love all these people, don't get me wrong. This is not a therapy session for me. As much as I'd like it to be. But it's a disconnect to use this deserve. Now, Yamaraj, getting back to Yamaraj, that's where I started. That Yamaraj is doing restorative justice, not retributive justice. In other words, if someone suffers, all right, let's take the punishment in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. If someone harasses the devotees on Sankirtan, does anyone remember what the punishment is? Sugar cane press, right. Pretty heavy, isn't it? Who here would like to get put through a sugar cane? In a subtle body. So it looks like the person's just getting punished for the sake of punishment. Like in the United States, when they have capital punishment, someone gets killed because they committed some crime, people go outside the prison house and they take joy as soon as they become joyful as soon as they hear the person's killed. That's called tailgating. They also do that at races too. They go, Jai, Haribo, he's been killed. But that's retributive justice. What Yamaraj is doing is he's shaping your subtle body. Sometimes, what do they call it, tough love? It's really tough love. You don't want Yamaraj as your father or mother. So what Yamaraj is doing is he's shaping your subtle body so you learn your lesson. People oftentimes ask the question, if I don't remember what I did, how can I learn the lesson? Well, it's a subtle body. It's impressions on the subtle body. That's all. We have all these impressions in the subtle body. So it's rectification rather than retribution. That's a different thing. But if we're always interested in this deserve, or even deserving something positive. Let's say, I'll use my mother again. Okay. Sorry, Mother Krishna. She's not my mother. But when I went to school, my mother, every time I did well, I deserved a prize. And that prize was, what? Anyone? Money. So I think I got, because money was worth more in those days, I got $5 for an A. Pretty good. And that's equivalent to like $50 nowadays. That was pretty good. I was in ecstasy. So I got $5 for an A, I think 2 for a B, 0 for a C, and then a negative amount for a T. So I became a very good accountant at an early age. Got my CPA, And so anyway, when it was deserved, you deserved this money, you deserved this. It didn't connect me with the activity of studying. When you use rewards or punishment, which is deserved type of stuff, sometimes we even reward ourselves, I deserve a beer for doing so well in class this morning. Anyways, I don't do that. So it didn't connect me with the studying. What disconnected me from the studying? It didn't make me like to study. It made me like to make money, right? Because when you use a reward, it's extrinsic, not intrinsic. Everyone understands the difference between the two words? Extrinsic means the reward has really nothing to do with the activity. And it makes you like the reward. It makes you more like a business person, whether it's money or whatever it is, like a toy, you get a new toy. It's like you're always engaged in business like that to get what you want. And it actually helps you become more selfish. So the way to deal with things, let's say we want to encourage someone to study. Don't use money. Don't use toys. Have people understand the joy of studying. I mean, that's why Chumpaka is such a good teacher. You don't give your children money or toys or anything like that. Money. Oh, good. I want to become your student then. How can I enroll? You know, this is pretty good. How much? I'm just joking.
It's all about a relationship.
Yeah, it's about relationships.
Spend time with them, take them out shopping.
Yeah. No, that's developing relationships. That's a strategy. But to make them understand that learning is fun. You know, now, of course, I like to learn about different things without any extrinsic reward. It's fun. Like I learn about the psychology and everything like that. It's fun. It's a lot of fun for me. But if someone started, give me something for doing this, like I'm here giving a seminar, and I've given you seminars all over the place. And if someone started paying me a speaker's fee or something for doing it, it would take the fun away from it. It would be more pecuniary, a financial-based relationship. You know, I still would do it, but I wouldn't be having fun with the activity. So those are the 4 Ds of this communication. And here's some quotes. Let's see. Okay, we did those already. Here's blind following. This is actually a quote from Prabhupada and Sesvarup Maharaj about blind following. In other words, not taking responsibility for what your activities are. It's one of the Ds of discommunication. Just to illustrate that these particular points can be found, I have quotes all over the place illustrating from Prabhupada, illustrating these different points I'm making about discommunication. So this is Sesvarup Maharaj. One person said, this kind of thing reminds me of Hitler's Germany. If there's too much authority or blind following, it's not healthy. Prabhupada said, no, too much authority if the authority is wrong, but if authority is right, then it's better to submit in one place and get everything. Just like here we go to the supermarket, we get everything there, we go there. Harishari said, and there's no question of blind following either, and Prabhupada said no. And also Prabhupada said in the Gita, blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. And so Bhagavad Gita, another quote, gives you full information that you can accept God with your reason, with your argument, with your knowledge. It is not blind following. Krishna consciousness is not a sentiment. It is backed by knowledge and practical knowledge. That's jnana and vijnana. Jnana vijnana sahitam. And the process is to understand this knowledge is to be a surrendered soul. So that's what it means to be a surrendered soul. One other quote. This is one of my favorites. Krishna conscious movement is for training men and women, I added that, to be independently thoughtful and competent in all types of departments of knowledge and action, not for making a bureaucracy. Once there is bureaucracy, the whole thing is spoiled. There must always be individual striving and work and responsibility, competitive spirit, not that one shall dominate and distribute benefits to others, and they do nothing but beg from you and you provide. It's very dysfunctional. And actually, when someone is controlled in such a way, they lose their ability, they become dysfunctional. They lose their ability in many ways to function in the actual world, make decisions for themselves. If you're always making decisions for a person, eventually they lose their own moral compass or a decision-making ability, and they become dependent. And we find this not only in religious institutions and bureaucracies, but also in companies and also in the military services, isn't it? When someone spent a long time, fortunately, Leela Shakti didn't spend enough time in the services. But when someone spends a long time in the services, let's say 20, 30 years, they come out and they don't know how to make decisions for themselves. Unless they're, I guess, a general, 5-star general or something. But because they're used to having everything provided, everything is there. Their food, and you see that, I mean, for example, I was visiting a monastery. I'm not going to talk about the Krishna consciousness movement. I used to visit one of the monasteries continually and preach to people. One of the monks became a devotee. And it was extremely dysfunctional in there. I couldn't believe. They basically had so many conflicts. One conflict they had is they didn't like the priest that was in charge of the monastery, so all the monks got together and prayed that God would kill him. Intense. And so what happened is a few days after they prayed that God would kill him, the priest was driving a tractor, the tractor rolled over and he died. So of course they all felt guilty about that. But it's not a criticism of monks and monasteries in general, but just like the whole idea of just like being taken care of, like, what do they say, from the womb to the tomb. You need to have an individual sense of striving, individuality. And of course, Prabhupada did say cooperation. But cooperation is a two-way street. It's not just a one-way thing, Sometimes we find authorities, not only in the Krishna consciousness movement, but in other places, I guess in the military it may happen, someone says, you have to cooperate with me. Do you ever have that in the military? They use that word, cooperation? No, but we do sometimes. You cooperate with me. I'm your guru, you have to cooperate. But that word is not used in the proper circumstance, or the proper way. Because cooperate means cooperate, right? Cooperate. In other words, back and forth, a mutual relationship. Okay, so with about 20 minutes left, we're going to go through the process. Those are the things that we should try to avoid. There's other things to avoid too, that we don't have time to get into all the things, but these are the 4 main things, the 4 Ds of discommunication, which we'll have written out by the time of the next session after the RT. So, I mean, other things are like when you're counseling someone, you don't want to be telling them what to do. You have to, not that you have to, but the best scenario is that you're facilitating them rather than just telling them what to do. Let's say if someone's in the hospital and they're experiencing extreme pain, you don't want to tell them you're not the body. It's probably one of the worst things you can say to someone. You're not the body. Don't be in Maya. You want to be empathic with them. Empathic with them means understanding their feelings and needs. Understanding they're feeling pain. You don't have to say you are feeling pain, because obviously that's a no-brainer. Like if you're in the hospital and someone's going, oh, I'm in pain. Are you feeling pain? It's not the right thing to say. But you can understand that they're feeling pain through your body language. You don't even have to say anything. Empathy doesn't require saying anything. It can actually be just body language, understanding. With your eyes. You can speak with your eyes. And just to understand their pain and to understand the need. The need, of course, is for peace or being without pain. So there's a lot of things to be avoided, but basically the 4 Ds pretty much cover 90% of everything. Okay, then let's go to what's called the tools for change. The 4 ways that we can look at the world that will help us become more empathic. And these ways are, first of all, you see up here, observation. So generally, when we see something, we rush to judgment about that particular thing. We don't have a observation without judgment. In other words, we're either putting a label or diagnosing a particular situation. It all connects with the 4 Ds of discommunication. Let's say, let's say we're in this room and we're feeling uncomfortable. So we can say, I feel uncomfortable, that's a feeling. But the observation would not be, it is uncomfortable in the room. Or it's not Like, let's give a practical one. Does anyone think it's hot in this room? Does anyone think it's cold in the room? Yes. Some people think it's hot, some people cold. So those are not observations, because it's not a specific scientific fact. Observations are like, if anyone's watched this TV series Dragnet millions of years ago, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Like if you're a detective, you just want the facts. I feel he didn't like me. That's not an observation. The observation would be, he said, you disgusting old man. That's an observation. Because he said it. But whether he likes you or not is so oftentimes we use the word feeling to indicate judgments rather than observations. So if you want to make an observation about the temperature in the room, you would say it's, I don't know, that's wrong. That's just what it's set to. You would say it's like 71 or whatever it is. You'd use a thermometer. It is 71 degrees in this room. That's an observation. So you want to be able to observe things without judgment, because remember, the judgments or the diagnoses are things that disconnect us. And let's just go through some observations. We have a little test here. So see if you understand, not feel, but see if you can tell whether these statements are observations or they're diagnoses. Remember, an observation is very specific, very, very specific. It's like a detective would ask for. So here's the first one. John was angry with me yesterday for no reason. Would that be an observation, or it'd be a diagnosis and a judgment? So, because John was angry, how do we know he was angry? You're not in his mind. You don't know if he's angry, and you don't know the reason. Maybe the reason was you stepped on his toe or something like that. So another one. Yesterday evening, Davy Dossie bit her fingernails during class. Is that an observation? Good. You got it. Next one is, Das did not ask me for my opinion during the meeting. Is that an observation? That's a hard one. It is an observation, because he didn't ask. It's just there. It's a fact. He did not say, what is your opinion during the meeting? It's all. So it's important to be able to observe things in a dispassionate way like this. My father is a good man. Gentlemen, okay. Krishna Das works too much. Das is aggressive. Good. Davy Dossie was first in line every day this week. Observation. Das often doesn't brush his teeth. Judgment. Because often, what does often mean? When you hear the words often, always, sometimes, it's a judgment. 9, Das told me that I don't look good in yellow. It's an observation. The temple president complains when I talk to him or her. The judgment, because what is complains? That's not a specific thing. And when I talk, it's not specific time. All right. Here, we'll go around the room. So let's have some examples. Think of a person who behaves in a way that bothers you, and tell me what they do as an observation. Can anyone think about that? Yeah.
People assume.
Oh, tell me about a particular one individual. Not people in general. Yeah. Does anyone think of something like their boss does to them, or their guru does it? Yeah.
I have this person at work.
Yeah.
When we're meeting, he always tells what I'm supposed to do.
He always tells what you're supposed to do. So that's a judgment. Does he ever say anything else to you, like hello, how are you?
He says that.
Yeah. So it doesn't always say. So let's be specific. Give me an example of one thing he says at one time.
When there's an action that I have to
Okay, give me one specific instance. Like yesterday, or, you don't have to have the time, but just one time.
In the last meeting we had
Yeah.
together,
Okay, good.
um,
What did he say?
Arun has to go and follow up on this.
Yeah. He has to go and find. Okay, good. That's an observation.
Yes.
Very good. And how did you feel about it?
Many things I can't say here, but not so good.
That's how it is. But you probably passed judgment on him,
Oh, yes.
You had some nice labels for him and everything like that. That's good. But, okay, so that's the first one, observations. And we have 10 more minutes. Oh my God, this is the fastest I've ever done this. Next one is feelings. Like, feelings are not that I feel he's a jerk, because that's also a judgment. Or I feel he's an idiot. But just things from the heart. It's important to develop a vocabulary of feelings more than just like happy, sad, depressed. There's other things like warm and fuzzy, and other things. And we can pass out, or I can send anyone who wants, a whole vocabulary list, like hundreds and hundreds of different feelings. So, just to go real quickly, time goes quickly when you're having a good time. So, from feelings, every time we have a feeling that's not a judgment, an actual something from the heart. Feelings are from the heart, not from the brain. Oftentimes I talk about the example of Kabanda in the Ramayana. Everybody knows Kabanda. He's the big demon with the 8-mile-long arms, tried to eat Ram and Lakshman. So he was just a brain and a stomach. So sometimes we find, members of the Krishna conscious movement, they like to eat a lot, and it's up in the mind, like passing judgment, using all these different judgment things, that we're talking about. And where's the heart? So the heart means basically feel, not I feel. Every time you say I feel that, it's usually judgment. I feel that you're an idiot. That's not a feeling. I feel that you're disgusted. That's not a feeling. That's a judgment. So you want to really go to the basic feelings. You can feel disgusted. You can feel angry. And so you go to the basic feelings. And the interesting thing is after that, then we go back to these needs again. Because every feeling, as we said in the beginning of this whole discussion, every feeling is connected with needs, met or unmet. Like you may have felt angry with your boss, right?
He's not even my boss.
Oh.
So I'm even more angry.
Oh, he's not your boss. So you were extremely angry. Or usually define it like extremely angry because you had let's go to this. What was your basic need? Let's use one of these right here. You had to not play, fun, and recreation, obviously. Yeah, autonomy, making your own decisions, respect.
Yeah, respect, yes.
All right, respect and appreciation maybe for what you did. So then you take responsibility. Remember we talked about denial responsibility? Because naturally what you do in a circumstance like that you'd say, he made me angry, right? You say, my whatever his boss or supervisor, whatever he is, he made me angry. But you say, I'm angry. Yeah, anger's great, wonderful. We'll talk about that in the Sunday Feast lecture. Anger's great, but my anger means that I have a need. Or even the judgment you make indicates needs. Judgments are expressions of needs too. So my judgment, this guy is a jerk. Of course, you probably use a lot of 4-letter words with him too. But maybe not. And so the judgment means needs that are not being met. And your feelings, in this particular case, means needs. So you take responsibility that I am angry because I have a need for, appreciation, respect, whatever these needs are. And then you go and you develop your own strategy. I said, this guy's not going to fulfill my needs for sure. So then you may have another strategy for filling that need. And then but once you understand the need, you develop the strategies. No one else can give you the strategies. Because you know, you may have a need for appreciation. So then you go home to your wife and say, I had a bad day. And she says, but I love you. Something. I mean, anyway, you develop a strategy that works to fulfill that need rather than blaming him. And once you've done that, this is a really quick lesson here, quicker than I've ever done before. So once you've done that, you can go there and have empathy for him. But you have to sort of fulfill your own needs before you can actually have empathy for others, which is really important. For example, if I'm really standing here talking to you and I'm really hungry, which I'm not right now, then I'm really not going to be able to be so empathic with you because I have this need. Other needs, or if I'm in pain, let's say I just had an operation, and it's really hard to be empathic with others when you're experiencing pain yourself. So part of empathy is being empathic with yourself. Self-empathy is extremely important without being judgment, because sometimes you may feel, well, I passed judgment on my supervisor, whoever that was, and therefore, I'm not being empathic and you're passing judgment on yourself. So basically, you want to own your feelings and even own your judgments and say, well, this is a need I have. There's nothing wrong with needs. Needs are good. Everybody has these needs. Now, needs are not things like I need to punch you in the mouth. That's not a need. I may having a judgment, you're an idiot, therefore I want to punch you in the mouth. But that's a judgment. And identify as a judgment. This is using your mind, using your intelligence. Buddhi yoga. Everybody's heard of Buddhi yoga before? Krishna consciousness, Buddhi yoga, using your intelligence. And understanding, I'm responsible for that judgment. I'm responsible for the feeling. It's the denial of responsibility. Again, don't deny the responsibility. And then I have this need. And I know this strategy that I'm doing right now is not going to help. And then you develop a strategy. Okay. And, oh my God. So anyway, so this is empathic communicate, the fastest, pretty fast stuff. I jumped ahead of myself. So, and then you can be like that. You observe what others are doing. Let's say others, once you've dealt with your own needs, then you look at others, someone else is crying. And you say, are you feeling sad? You can even ask them, are you feeling sad? And because you have a need for love or something like that, whatever. And they may say, no, I'm crying because I just cut myself. And so they're happy that you're guessing at their needs. That's part of empathy, is to sort of guess, to try to intuit what their needs and feelings are. And they appreciate that. And people pay psychologists to do that. How much an hour does a psychologist cost?
Like $240 before it's billed insurance.
Yeah, $240 before it's... people pay someone to listen to them for 50 minutes. I'll do it for $100. Discount. So, because they want other people to intuit their feelings and needs. And they don't want other people, you don't want to go to a psychologist and psychologists say, diagnose you, you're a schizophrenic, boy. Or, of course, the psychiatrist, they just give you medicine. But you want someone to understand you. The need for understanding is so strong. So once we've understood ourselves, then we can just guess and understand others, and people are happy, and we don't tell them what to do. We help them understand their needs as part of counseling, and that means facilitation. You don't say, if you give people a solution to their problems, it's not theirs. They don't own it. You own it, and you're responsible if it doesn't work. That's one thing I've experienced in dealing with counseling over the years. When you tell people what to do, other than ordinary management, you end up in trouble. If it doesn't go right, and if it goes right, it's not theirs. They're not really connected to it. Okay, we got Arti now. What can we do? Krishna's there. I have to stop. I'm choosing to stop because I like Krishna. Okay. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.